Sukhatah kriyate Rama bhogah paschadhanta sharire rogah yadhyapi loke maranam sharanam tadapi na munchati papacharanam. Sukhatah kriyate Rama bhogah paschadhanta sharire rogah yadhyapi loke maranam sharanam tadapi na munchati papacharanam. The verse is titled Beware of Carnal Pleasures. So it's just throwing caution. Beware of sensual pleasures. So here he says, Sukhata kriyate Rama bhoga. One happily indulges in carnal pleasures. Alas, later on, the body becomes diseased. Paschat anta. Alas, sharire roga. Your only body, head to toe, is only roga. Though death is the end in this world, yadhyapi loke maranam sharanam. This is the end. The death is the end in this world. Tadapina munchati papa charana. Even then one does not leave his sinful behavior. Tadapina munchati papa charana. Just even to break up the text, break up the verse, and you analyze, it makes it so simple, so down-to-earth message, and so applicable. That's the beauty of the text. Yes, ma. So 28th verse, he talks about the first motivation, which is, in fact, he talks about the second motivation first, which is enjoyment. 29th verse, he talks about wealth, which is the first motivation. Remember, the theme of this text is to rise beyond the two primary motivations of life, which is acquisition and enjoyment. This is the apparent theme of life. Everybody is hell-bent on acquiring. And having acquired, you want to enjoy what you acquired. And the text powerfully in the very first verse chorus, he says, Nahi nahi rakshati dukkhin karati. This futile pursuit is not going to serve you. It's not going to help you. He powerfully denounces that meaningless purpose of life of just trying to acquire and enjoy the world, thinking it is an end in itself. Realize the futility of it and BHAJAGOVINDAM. Seek Govinda, seek the truth, seek something higher, seek something beyond it. You may not seek the self, but at least you can attempt to seek something beyond merely running behind your constant greed of acquiring and wanting to enjoy what you acquired. Realize its futility. That's the theme of the text. So rightfully so, the Guru summarizes it in 28 and 29. The 30th verse, he gives the antaranga sadhana, which is the internal discipline. In the 27th verse, if I'm not wrong, he gave us the bahiranga sadhana, which is the external discipline. So the external spiritual discipline, which we had covered in detail, was given in 27. The 30th mantra, the verse gives antaranga sadhana, the internal discipline. And the 31st verse, he says, in your spiritual path, the Guru is the most important person. Guru charanam bhuja nirbhara bhakta samsara chirad bhava mukta. You want mukti, You want liberation from your delusion. You want liberation from your attachment. You must be Guru Charanam Bhuja, he says. You must be at the lotus feet of the Guru. Guru is a quintessential role he plays. People have taken literally, and they're only doing Pada Puja to the Guru's feet. They are not heeding the advice given by the Guru. The Guru's feet have become full of sores because so much Pada Puja going on. What will happen? You put your feet in water for 24 hours. What will happen to the feet? All sores. So please get out of your madness of worshipping the feet. Feet only symbolizes on what the Guru stands for, on what the Guru symbolizes. Don't take the rituals beyond its madness. Beyond its purpose, it goes into madness. I remember there was a man very, very close to us in Malaysia. He told me that there was a Swami who was visiting the country, Kuala Lumpur. He was visiting the city, very well known. I don't want to mention names. I don't want to take names, please, because there's no disrespect. And there was a huge gathering. Every time he came, there was a substantial gathering because he was quite well known. And he had a center where he would actually address people. He would have a few public gatherings and also a center where he would be housed, and few close devotees would end up coming for a close satsang with him. And even that would be maybe a couple of hundred, maybe, And he said, I used to go there to understand and learn the Shastras. And it used to be a good dialogue. Not necessarily I was satisfied, but I used to have an opportunity I could ask questions. But then he said, what struck me, which I'm sharing with you, he said, Guruji, I didn't like the ending part of the whole satsang. Every time in a day, there were 2 satsangs, and there was this one ritual. And in fact, I was feeling very sorry for the Guru, he said. That's what struck with me. He said, imagine 200 people standing in a serpentine queue with all of them a tumbler in their hand, and the Guru used to sit in the center of the hall, and everybody used to go and offer their respects and wash the feet of the Guru. And every day, morning and evening satsang, imagine 200 people washing the feet of the Guru. I said, I did not like that. No, I wouldn't do that. And he was very strongly objecting to that ritual. Now, I'm not here to say what is right, what is wrong. But here the text says you must understand the Guru plays an essential role in your sadhana, but don't take it literally to a point where you worship the personality. Not long ago, maybe I think a decade ago or so, I heard one of the relics of supposed to be the tooth of Lord Buddha was being flown around in a Boeing around the world, city to city, and people were thronging to come and look at the tooth of Lord Buddha. Okay, tell me, how would it make you any wiser looking at the tooth of Lord Buddha? I would say you would remain a Buddhu, but no Buddhi will come into you if you look at the tooth of Buddha. Even Buddha will be banging his head to the walls. For all purposes, I wanted you all to become wise, but you Buddhus are taking perhaps you take his teachings and distribute to people, some Buddhi will come. Don't hold on to the non-essentials. And yet, a Guru is essential in your path. That's what 31 says. No, let's not lose our focus. I might almost forget which verse I'm talking. Sukhata kriyate Rama bhogaha paschadanta sharire rogaha. So as I've said, this verse talks about carnal pleasures, and the text uses Kamini, woman, as a symbol of enjoyment, not to disrespect or demean women. Please, that's not the intent. We have already clarified when we did the text in the early parts, when we studied that verse, we said it is not to demean women, but symbolic. So one happily takes to carnal pleasures. Now, sukha prapti. Everybody takes to sensual enjoyments for the simple objective of gaining enjoyment. Now, the fundamental question, why does one take to carnal pleasures? Rama Bhogaha. I don't know why it's called Rama Bhogaha. That's the that's the Sanskrit, you know. The word Rama here means carnal. And Lord Rama was symbol of exactly the opposite. So that's Sanskrit. Now I leave all to the Sanskrit pundits to figure out what that is. So the word Rama Bhogaha means carnal pleasures. Now, why does one happily take to carnal pleasures? Where we're talking about the senses falling a prey to sense objects. The senses are your eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin, and you falling a prey to their respective sense objects, where you fall a prey to the sense contact. And as you know, you don't need any lecture on that. We're all very wise because enough experience. We would say that the senses are, what is the purpose of the senses? Say, what are you talking, sir? Senses, are they not meant to enjoy the sense objects? There are 5 senses and the respective sense objects designed to meet the demands of the senses. So why are we making so much fuss about it? The many people argue. So senses are meant to enjoy the sense objects. Let's go and enjoy. Let's have maja. Chalo yaar, maja kare. What? Give whatever your senses demand. Fundamental question. Why? He says, happily take to sensual pleasures, carnal pleasures. But why is it one takes to sensual pleasures? Sriniji, you're going to set the tone, huh?
Hari Om, Guruji.
Good morning, sir. Hari Om. Good evening to you.
Yeah, good morning to you. The question is, why do you fall and prey with your senses? That's your question, right?
Why does one take to carnal pleasures, sensual enjoyment? You're right.
Well, I think you just kind of mentioned it, because you're seeking enjoyment. People find enjoyment in carnal pleasure. So therefore, that's one of the root causes. I could say the other is it could be biological as well. So I don't know how else to answer it, but it's a base need of the humankind.
I would take to both the answers. You're right, which is why they, in fact, why do people almost falling a prey to the temptations, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost a trap. Now the question is, do we see it as a trap? Are you all, there's enough understanding here that just because the sense objects are there to appease and satisfy the senses, it's not tantamount to that you must give a license to your senses, isn't it? I repeat, just because the sense objects are catering your senses and there's a certain pleasure you derive out of it, it doesn't tantamount to giving a license and say, let's indulge recklessly. And that's what the verse is saying. You know, if you do so, your body becomes diseased, my dear. And if you are suffering with disease, it's because of your licentious indulgence in the senses. But it all starts with, as you rightly said, there is what is known as immediate pleasure. What sense contact gives you is immediate pleasure. What sense denial gives you is There is the sense object. There is an initial liking for that. But if you say no to it, what would that bring about?
If you say no to the pleasures, is that, or to the senses, to the receipt of, if you say
Yes.
no, that means you're kind of satisfied. You're not looking at any kind of stimulation for those kind of senses.
Sir, your kid wants to have an ice cream and the parent says no ice cream.
No, that's different. Yeah.
I'm only talking of that. What different now? It is what I'm talking. You have you're not understood me. Huh? Either you are told not to, or you refrain. I don't want to. Whatever be the reason, either externally imposed or internally induced, you want to refrain from it. But let's say if somebody externally says no, what is your reaction?
A sense of disappointment, sense of frustration,
So
sense of wanting it more.
You want more. So what we are trying to say is the natural flow, as you put it biologically, the natural flow is to rush towards the senses. It seems almost against the flow to say no to it, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But if so, the primary reason why one takes to sensual indulgences is instant pleasure, immediate pleasure, sense gratification. All right, that's one reason. Now, there's another reason, a very powerful reason. Another very powerful reason why people take to sensual pleasures, carnal pleasures. RPG, any idea?
Hari Om, Guruji.
Hari Om.
So yeah, I think the instant pleasure, and perhaps this goes hand in hand, maybe not, it is that it kind of it's readily available. So it doesn't, there's no struggle for these things. So not only can I go get it, but I don't have to invest any time or energy. It's just there. So there's no, it's, you know, going back to our conversation about no pain, no gain, right? I not only can I have it right away, but I don't have to really do anything to get it. So there's no sacrifice on my part to get this.
Yes, you're still talking about, please refrain from using the chat box. It distracts everybody, including me. It's like two people talking through different channels. One person talking, can you concentrate? You're not concentrating first and foremost. Please. So, as rightly said, there's no pain, there's no gain. In sense, it is very easy way out. You're just making it easier for us to understand. Thanks for that. But I'm asking for, apart from it giving you an immediate kick or a satisfaction, there's one other powerful reason why people take to these carnal pleasures.
It's not coming to me, Guruji. Yeah.
No problem. Please think along. My job in this classroom is to make you all, we all should think in line with the scriptures. That's about all. All right. Please think along, sir. Yes, Setharamanji.
Hari Om, Guruji.
Namaskar. Yes, sir.
Procreation.
Procreation. Now, that's only one avenue of indulgence. We took an aspect of ice cream. your tongue wants taste. You fall a prey to that taste. You fall a prey to any stimuli.
Just to taste also.
Okay. Right. What is the reason why people take to carnal pleasures? Venkatramanji.
Yes, sir.
Any idea?
Can I give a little bit physiological reasoning? It will add a different dimension from my own studies. Okay.
By all means.
So we are all evolved from reptiles, lizards, and there is still a lot of the reptile function within us. The reptile function, lizard, snake, whatever it is pleasure seeking, surviving. Okay, that is the basic this or that. And that vasana or whatever you want to call it is still there within us. The brain consists of 3 parts, and we have learned this in school. The cerebrum, which is the seat of higher learning, BHAJAGOVINDAM, satsang, all that. The cerebellum, which is the basic body functions, bowels, lungs, eyes, pancreas, whatever it is. And then the basal ganglia or the medulla oblongata, which is survival mechanism, which caters to the basal instincts. A lot of our functioning is driven by our need to survive, by our need to seek pleasure. And because of this, no matter how much cerebrum is there, he may be a sant, he may be a jagu, he may be a this, but he ultimately, he also indulges in carnal pleasures. The church has done this, our Hindu sages have done that. And the fight constantly is between fighting the impetus by the basal ganglia, which is, lizard, reptile in function, and the cerebrum. And it is this fight that determines where you go in life. And that is why we are always seeking carnal pleasures and suppressing them. It's part of our evolution.
I will have to listen to the recording again, sir.
Okay, sure. And I will share some more links with you.
Please
that
do.
Give a much more detailed explanation and how to please that lizard within you. That is all within us. Why, when you know, and how to control it.
I'm telling one thing, you are saying how to please the lizard in you. You are telling
meaning how to align it. You have to think like it's a 5-year-old boy. And how to control a 5-year-old boy. You have to make him happy, but you have to make him steady.
I like that word control.
Correct. That is what
I dislike
please
the word
control.
please.
Yeah.
I dislike the word please.
Yeah.
We will delete that
please
word.
In the context of controlling the boy.
Perfect.
Think of it like a 5-year-old boy whom you have to control. You have to make him happy. If he will say, I'll go out and play, you have to say, yeah, but when the light is put on, please come up. Play only for 10 minutes, come up. You have to allow him that freedom. Otherwise, he will rebel, he will not study. So that is what I mean by please and control.
Perfect. Right.
Sorry, it's a little bit of a tangent, but this is based on my own studies.
Not at all. It just gives a different dimension, but I like the conclusion. Because you're in line, whether physiological, psychological, or philosophical, all are ultimately coming to the right rational element, where you said there has to be there's a certain conscious implication here that you can't give a total license to your senses and let them run berserk. Yeah, then thereafter, you only going to pay the price, which the first half of the verse itself says, your body will become diseased if you give license to your senses. That's it. There's no two way about it, isn't it? Right. Now, thank you, sir. Really appreciate that. Now, I don't know, any one of you could, okay, Vijayji, and then, okay, then perhaps we'll ask G.P. Garu after that. Just a few minutes, sir. Yeah,
Guruji.
Yes,
is it the ego which is giving entitlement feeling?
No, it's not the ego.
I mean, you feel that you overrule your conscience. There is no lack of.
So even a person, other day we were talking about it somewhere, that a person may have a conscience. He feels guilty, and yet he continues to indulge. So indulgence is because of the predominance of the desire and the mind and the inability to control the temptation. I know it is wrong to overeat, yet I'll stuff myself to the point where I'll start vomiting. It's repulsive. It's disgusting. It just it just puts off. It's not acceptable. You can't hog, man. In fact, hogging is one of the worst qualities, they say. You indulge as if there's no tomorrow for you. So when a person is doing that, when somebody does that, you mean to say conscience in him is not telling him? There's very much the conscience there. Yes, sir, please.
So what I meant was the mind completely overpowering the intellect.
Correct. Correct.
So I shouldn't have brought in the conscience into this, I suppose. You find you like it. Once you like it, I can take it, which is what I meant by entitlement. And then, once you say I want to take it, and then there's nobody to oppose it, there's unopposed intelligence. Then once you do it and you like it, the mind gets reinforced, and then you go further and further and further. And physiologically, we are meant to enjoy all especially the procreation part of it, meant to enjoy it. So you're given, but at the same time, there is no upper limit to it. If the mind is very strong, it sort of overpowers everything and makes you continue to do that.
Correct.
That's what I meant.
No, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. Yes. But this is very clear. But the reason or the answer I'm looking at is still, I'm looking for answers. So my pursuit will continue in search for that one more reason. Yes, Ragaru.
Jai Gurudev. Jai Gurudev.
Namaskar, sir. Namaskar.
If the body needs all the senses, it needs like a food. You must have. You can't say that anything is, but there is a limitations. That limitation, because gulab jam is very, very tasty. You can't take more than what, otherwise you will get into disease. The same people I see the sugar who are taking more and more, once they stop, they can't touch the sugar in the coffee or tea when they're taking. It shows is very clear that our body is an animal system. If we allow that animal system, it just there is no ultimately whichever the sense is predominant and taking certainly it will be health problems you are seeing everywhere. Whichever you cross the limit, Lakshman Rekha, that if you cross, that is where the intellect always says, your conscience says, no, you are going beyond that. Even while eating food or any other senses, whichever is there. So there is a limit. That's why the family system has come. So you have to restrict, if it is some family system has come only because this, which you have to give that senses to the extent what is required, to that extent only is to be given. Otherwise, you have become animal. There is no difference between animal and human being. So we have to have all senses is meant for, to the extent what is required till you become, to a satsang that whatever is coming to, you can have the relationship in such a way you can maintain. Otherwise, you will become a totally a different personality in the society. So,
correct. No, I agree to everything you said except one thing, sir. I'm very sorry. I will strongly object to that. See, whenever I am not with humans, most of the time I spend time with animals, not physically, but virtually. I'm all the time seeing to this National Geographic, Animal Planet, and things like that. So I'm connect very much with nature. And when they converse, as when we are conversing, you're saying you're behaving like animals. In fact, when they converse amongst themselves, and if an animal misbehaves, they say you're behaving like a human. Because no animal ever has got diabetes. No animal ever is obese. If you were to see in the African savannah, there are 100 or 100,000 wildebeests or 100 zebras. All of them are exactly same. Now you put 100 fellows stand in line, all of same age. No fellow looks the same. No, fellow, either be it color, or either be it hair, either be it health, either be it the belly, either be it their, you go internally test them, their blood pressure is different, their blood sugar is different, their this is different, their that is different. But yet I strongly object, we should not abuse animals, because we have to learn a lot from animals. Animals are 100% disciplined. Nature has provided, providence has provided, you will never find an animal overeating. Harish ji, have you seen any animal overeating? No animal ever do that. It could be your home pet, it could be something in the wild, they will not. Providence has provided that. What has provided, what is a human being provided with? I'm only talking in a even you take literally, or you take in a spirit of lightheartedness.
What you said is very true, but one thing the animal means, my sense is, they just openly, they don't understand what is happening, the society, what it looks, because their limitations are there. That's why they, but one side is the animal, that is they know the health point of view in forest, no, rabbit to elephant, they are very safe health. They also broke their legs and head, and but still they come out without doctors. That is there, that is the system. But at the same time, they don't see the brother or sister, that is the animal, that relations which they don't have. There is also something.
In fact, sir, one thing we have to learn from animals is no animal is ever attached. You know that? They are very, very detached. Any animal kingdom, they're very detached. They move on. It is actually, yeah.
Some of them, like you look at the monkeys, if the death took place, the children, they don't leave that body till it goes into certain things. Certainly,
because they have, in fact, they have got human tendency, because we have come more from monkeys, no? Lizards also there, but since monkeys are very close to humans, that human trait is functioning in a monkeys.
So certain qualities. Only reference to certain qualities. Not animals are ultimately, we learn so much from the animals. We
can learn a lot. We can learn a lot. Thank you, Ji.
I respect the animals.
Namaskar. Yes. So what we are getting at is almost lost the thought flow. What we are talking is, there is a very powerful drive from the senses towards sense objects for sensual indulgences. One we said is because there's an immediate pleasure. There's another reason, looking at, I think a few of them have raised their hands. I'll have to get to them. Okay, go in order. Srinivas Reddy Garu, please.
Pranam Guruji.
Yes, sir.
This basic question we're talking about, why people take carnal pleasures. In my understanding, Guruji, it's nothing but about the happiness. We are striving for the happiness. And when we're talking about happiness, why the happiness is always not been contented. There is a gap. What we want, what we have, there is always a gap. To fill the gap, I think we get into indulging into these carnal pleasures. That's what my understanding is.
All right. In fact, you are close to what I was looking at. Everybody is seeking happiness. That's perhaps a cue you could take. Very rightly said. Yes. Okay. Yes. Perfect. Reddy Garu. Kamal ji. Yes. Kamal ji. Yes, please.
Pranam Guruji. I know you have mentioned a couple of reasons, and we discussed some reasons why we would be going for sensuous pleasures. One reason coming to my mind was, we generally go because we find that something seems like very normal to us, like it's nothing is wrong because everybody is doing like that. And we just think go with our emotions, think with our mind. We don't think with the intellect about that. We just go with our emotions and just we follow everyone else because it's just the normal we feel in the society.
Is like blind leading the blind.
Yeah, something like that.
We just follow what's in trend. Yes. So would you say we are just ignorant of something else? We know not of anything else. We're just following what everybody, our peers, our superiors, our parents, everybody in the society is doing that. So you think that's how life is meant to be led?
Because we are not listening to our consciousness. We are not thinking from our intellect. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And we are just following everyone. And that's
okay. Yeah. Right. Very good. Right. Appreciate. Yes. Yes. Perfectly so. Yeah. Yes, Harish.
Good morning, Guruji. How are you?
Hari Om. Yes.
Guruji,
Harish, you're actually muted yourself, please.
yes, Guruji, my understanding for the answer, Guruji, is that we have unfinished or unextinguished vasanas that lead us to that direction of carnal pleasures, that because some of the vasanas are not yet fulfilled. Hence, we indulge in certain areas of this worldly pleasures.
See, philosophically, you may be right, but practically you can't accept. I would not accept that argument. See, just because I have vasana doesn't mean I must indulge and destroy my physical and mental well-being. I may have vasana for to travel, but I don't have to burn myself just by traveling and seeing the world. Exodus, some people have weakness for sight, so they have to constantly keep traveling and traveling and traveling. They want to engage their perception of sight. See, so it's a weakness for that. So you don't have to burn yourself because you say vasana. You can't. Vasana, no doubt, could be the root, but it's not the actual cause. Right? But an interesting observation, though. Okay. Now, one reason you will all appreciate, which we have learned in different contexts, is so one reason, as we said, why people take to carnal pleasures is because of the instant pleasure. The second reason why is people are ignorant of sattvic happiness. People do not understand, they do not have the wisdom to lead a life of seeking happiness through sattva. Happiness, no doubt, is the objective, is the end you want. As we learned, happiness is the very objective, we do everything. But how do you seek that happiness? You can gain that happiness through a rajasic way or to sattvic way. So what is rajasic happiness vis-a-vis sattvic happiness? Rajasic happiness is like nectar in the beginning is poison at the end. Sattvic happiness is poison in the beginning, nectar in the end. False happiness, all you can write down is false happiness is nectar in the beginning. And that's where you fall a prey to the temptation. Sriniji, are we clear here? False happiness is, could you repeat, sir? False happiness is?
It's nectar in the beginning and then poison later.
It's nectar in the beginning, poison later. And true happiness or sattvic happiness is?
I need explanation.
Opposite.
Why is it?
I'll get to that. But just could you just? I'm just quoting the Shastras. I'll clarify. Indeed, certainly. All I'm saying is false happiness is nectar in the beginning, poison in the end. Sattvic happiness or true happiness is poison in the beginning, nectar in the end. Just by quoting what Arpitji said, which he quoted the recently last week or the earlier we said, there's no pain, there's no gain. You want health, You'll have to put your body through a regime, through a discipline, through a certain exercise, through a certain protocol, through some activity where you'll have to push it. What have we not seen in the Olympics? We just concluded, isn't it? I think yesterday it concluded. There was a closing ceremony. What have we not seen? How these athletes are able to bring the best out of their physique. And the most inspiring thing is you look at Paralympics. Oh my God. You may say Olympics, okay, sir, you know, these are all professional sportsmen, etc. Paralympics is just mind-boggling what these people are able to bring out of their physical disability. It is just in their mind. It's just in your mind. It's just mind over matter. And it's not easy to be able to achieve and come to that level of performance without any sacrifice, without any discipline, without any effort, without consistent effort, not once in a while doing. So they understand, and you and I should also understand that which, if you fall a prey to instant pleasure, which is false happiness, is good to fall a prey to temptation, but all it leads you is disease and ultimate. In fact, those who lead an indulgent life, science proves that your life gets shortened. So you will die sooner than you have to. In fact, even if you're living only on pills. You survive on pills. The moment you stop taking pills, your body will stop functioning. Because your body is diseased already. So you're using external means to just carry on. And yet you will not leave your sinful ways. That's what the verse says. Why? Because you don't have the wisdom. You don't, first of all, you're ignorant of something called a sattvic happiness, nor you lack the wisdom to control the initial rush to indulge in the senses and lead a life of sattvic happiness, which it may be painful, it may be unpleasant in the beginning, but it's all nectarine in the end. So to lead a life of self-control and self-discipline is poison to begin with. That's all he's saying. There is a buffet laid out there. You can take as much as you want, but you choose to take this much, not this much, and leave, let's say, 1/4 of your stomach still empty. It's not easy. I can consume more, but I choose to eat less. That abstinence, that withdrawal, the conscious saying no to it, all that only gives you inner strength. Otherwise, you're actually punishing your system, literally, isn't it? The machine is constantly working. It can't work beyond a point. Anyway, you wanted to clarify something, Sriniji.
Yes, I would like clarification on the sattvic happiness. Why does it always have to begin with poison and end with nectar?
You can't ask that question, because that's how nature is. That's how life is. All that is beneficial to you has got an unpleasant beginning. That's how life is designed. All that is beneficial to you has an unpleasant beginning. All that's detrimental to you has a pleasant beginning. If you look at life, all the right things to do, if you want to lead a life of integrity and values, it's not easy. But if you want to compromise, it's very easy for you to compromise your value systems or your integrity, isn't it? You want to dilute your work ethics, it's very easy. But if you want to uphold your work ethics, you'll have a mountain of a challenge. You'll have a headwind. It's like an avalanche all the time hitting you because you want to live by your values. But it's not easy. But have you got the strength to uphold your value systems? To lead an undisciplined life, you don't need education. But to lead a life of discipline, you need constant education. It's unpleasant to begin with. But anything that is pleasant to begin with doesn't need any education, doesn't need effort. That's what they're saying. And that's the strange paradox of life. And if you have not got that in you to make the right choice, now what's the right choice? That all that is unpleasant to begin with is in my favor, is beneficial to me. All that is pleasant to begin with is detrimental to me. So I should not go by what is the instant feedback I get from my sense contact. Oh, this is very tasty. As G.B. Garu said, gulab jamun. No gulab jamun is detestable because it is made for your downfall. Have you ever tasted any gulab jamun which tastes bitter? Hey, what sort of gulab jamun is this? It doesn't taste sweet at all. RPG, have you tasted any gulab jamun which is not sweet? In fact, you'll complain. This gulab jamun has got less sugar in it, You'll complain if it's not as sweet as it's meant to be. And yet, if you eat more than a few, you will become like one. You will become round like a jamun, Therefore, sir, anything that's tasty, you got to be watchful. If you're not watchful, you'll only end up eating bland food. You will only want boiled vegetables. And you have so much food, you only want boiled vegetables. Why? Because you can't accept it. Are you getting, sir, what I'm saying? So this is life. So we all have to make a choice. So the choice is, am I to choose something which is based on pleasant? Or am I to make a choice based on what is beneficial to me? Choice. If you make a choice based on something which is pleasant to me, you will make a wrong choice. But if you choose in terms of what is that is beneficial to me, you will take the path not taken by many. So there is a strange paradox. So this lack of this education of what's sattvic happiness and false happiness. So the world doesn't know. Two reasons. Is that okay? That satisfies Sriniji? Perfect. Kamalji, you have something to say, sir? Yes, please.
Sorry.
Yes, please.
So
yeah, we can hear you, sir. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to clarify that, is this concept of sattvic happiness and rajasic happiness same as shreyas and prayas, where you at each event you have to make that decision, using your intellect for any event, whether you take the path of shreyas or the prayas?
Now, for the benefit of others, can you just briefly explain what shreyas and prayas mean? I understand you, but I don't know whether others understand it.
Yeah, prayas basically, as I understand, is like short-term gain, but long-term you are, it's not a long-term gain. It's like long-term loss, you can say. Whereas that's the prayers. Whereas shreyas is you're deciding for the good in the long term, but initially you may not have a gain or good experience.
Right. Yes, for the Shreya is the path of the good or the path of the righteous, the path of the higher. Preya means the path of the pleasant, which leads a life of indulgence. So in other words, in fact, it is right. So if you want to lead the path of Shreya, which is the path of the good, which is sattvic happiness, the path of Preya is like false happiness or rajasic happiness. So you can equate it that way. You're right, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
Yes. Right. So the consequences of leading a life of Rama Bhogaha, carnal pleasures, the price one pays at the physical level, once you lead an indulgent life, he says the body becomes diseased. one by one, your organ becomes incapacitated because you have led an indulgent life. Secondly, at the mental level, the price you pay is you reach a state of neutralization. So the price you pay at the physical and mental level of indulgence, when you lead an indulgent life, your physical level, you become diseased. At the mental level, you reach a state of neutralization. Now, what is neutralization? Neutralization is a state which you are subjected to based on the law of diminishing value. So the law of diminishing value kicks in when you have led a life of indulgence. And just for clearer understanding, indulgence is nothing but, what is indulgence, Rajima? Switch off.
Craving for more and more, Guruji.
Craving is different to indulging. What is indulging? Craving is I have it, I want more. Indulgence is?
Recklessly giving into your mind and desires.
You're right. In fact, indulgence is nothing but a repeated contact. Hariji, please type it out for us, please. Indulgence is repeated contact or indiscriminate contact. When you have a repeated contact with a sense object or an indiscriminate contact is nothing but indulgence. And that indulgence, at the physical level, he says your body will be diseased. At the mental level, you reach a state of, Ramji, when you lead an indulgent life, this is the definition of indulgence: repeated indiscriminate contact. When you do that, at the physical level, your body is diseased. At the mental level, you reach a state of? Yes, sir.
You reach a state of what is called an external dependence.
The term we have used is known as neutralization.
Neutralization, yeah.
Okay, sir. And the term neutralization is a state you reach, and that state you reach is determined by the law of diminishing value.
Yeah.
So there's a logic and a reason behind what we are saying. It can be substantiated. So any idea what this law of diminishing value is?
With a very incremental unit, your satisfaction level comes down, or you get less satisfaction with a very incremental unit.
Correct. So every experience you keep contacting, what happens? The joy,
the pleasure comes down. Yeah,
comes down. The same thing. I'm quoting our experience at the Pragati Resorts. Jibika should not misunderstand. You know, when we went there, the first breakfast we were given mango juice. The mango season is well and ended, but we were offered mango juice. The first sip, I said, wow. It is purely heavenly. And the next few days we were there, every day we were offered the same lovely, refreshing, which all would look forward to, the mango juice. But every meal there was this lovely mango juice that was provided. Then we realized, I realized inwardly that the law of diminishing value came in. Not that the object is different. The same mango juice, 3 meals a day, the next 3 days you have. What joy you get from that mango juice you had on the first day, vis-a-vis the same mango juice, the joy you get on the 9th contact. What is the joy content? Arviji, you say, please, I was not subjected to that experience, so I can't answer. Huh? So don't say that.
No, so I mean, it's some incremental value. You could argue that it's 1/9 of the value, or it's something less, right? Every time it goes down, and so the classic story we hear is the old ice cream story, right? So get ice cream tonight, and then you want it again in the at lunch tomorrow, and then by the time you have it, you're sick of it because it holds no value for you.
Sorry, I can't relate to that. I was not offered that way. I only talk of mango. I will not talk of ice cream.
Okay.
Well, you put me through that and then we have a discussion. You can't be sitting in a foreign land and talk of something which you don't put your guru through it. This is very unfair. You can't. Please at least think of me at least when you're doing that, okay?
I should have more empathy, Guruji. You're right.
Thank you. Really appreciate that. Huh? No, yeah, but the concept is what you're getting at, isn't it? So every time you contact, there is a reduction. There is the joy content starts depreciating. Now, what is the extremity? What is the conclusion of neutralization? RPG, it's a half story. You must conclude the story.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were asking in general. So I guess to me, I've found myself in the state. It's a revulsion or a repudiation of that thing, whatever it is. You just get sick of it.
That's the physical aspect of it, because you've overdone it. You've overdone it.
And yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Guruji.
Yeah. So what? If I say anything more, I'll answer myself. So I'm trying to refrain. Not.
I thought you were going to ask something else. Yeah. So I'm just. To me, it's one and the same, both at a mental level and a physical level. But I guess
No. It is not. It is not. It is not.
Yeah.
There is a beautiful difference, a subtle difference, and what that neutralization would lead us to. In fact, you'll start pitying yourself. Oh my God, have I reached this state? And we all have. I would say you all have. Or one has reached that state if you have subjected yourself through a life of indulgence. So indulgence leads you to a state of neutralization. Okay, let me get to it before I take what Ashama wants to say. Yes, Ashama, boliye.
This beautiful quote I had read: knowledge is the only means of instrument that is not subject to diminishing returns.
So glad you said that, and so nicely said. Yes, knowledge is not. In fact, when you say knowledge, it is the wisdom, I mean,
Probably.
The real, whenever these men use in that context, it's wisdom, and that has no diminishing. The more you quote it, the more there's joy. So nice. Yes, ma. Wonderful. Wonderful. So it's not subjected to everything. Huh? Thank you. Yes, Hariji. I know.
Guruji, I thought the word neutralization comes out of the basic scientific term neutralization, which is a reaction of an acid with a base, and therefore you produce a salt, which is symbolic of the fact that the acid properties are completely lost, the basic properties are completely lost. So I think that is what is meant by neutralization. In chemistry or science, neutralization is just an acid radical reacting with a base radical and producing a salt, which means you lose the acid functionality, you lose the base functionality in the product. And that is exactly what happens out of neutralization. I mean, you neither have the desire left, nor does the object produce the same result.
I strongly disagree here. That's what I said to your RPG. You can't say the desire loses. No, in fact, when you indulge, we said indulgence is indiscriminate contact. When you allow your mind to indulge, your desire doesn't disappear. In fact, your desire gets fortified, your desire gets strengthened. So you can't extend the same law applicable to the mental level. The mental level, the desires are fed. Indulgence feeds your desires. So your vasanas and desires are more stronger. Physical level, you are sick. As he said, you become revulsive, you're tired, you want to change because of overindulgence. But the desire has not got saturated. The desire is very much there. Physically you're saturated, the desire doesn't leave you. That's why I wanted to say, what is the logical conclusion to the neutralization? So philosophically, the desire gets only strengthened through indulgence. Please understand that the desire doesn't die. A person who takes to any indulgence, he only leads himself further into it. The craving for it increases. I will conclude that. Let me listen to a couple of them. Hariji, I don't want you to end up answering her. But if you have something to say, please, I would like to listen to you. But please don't answer the thing. I'm slowly building it up. Yes, sir.
I want to answer this question.
Yes, sir, please.
Neutralization. The other thing, what we were talking about, the initially poisoning and then later it is nectar. Is it not the root cause of all this is due to weak intellect?
It is.
The subtle is stronger than the gross, and so we have to put in effort to strengthen the our subtle matter, our subtle power, and we are lazy to put in effort. So it is easy that if we depend totally on our gross body. That is why a CEO is paid more than a laborer. A CEO has to put in a lot of effort mentally and intellectually.
Correct. Right. It's boils down to weak intellect, no?
Yeah.
Somebody had also commented earlier. Perfect. Thank you, Hariji, for refraining. Okay. Right. Yes, Sedramanji. I think Vijayji also wanted to say earlier something, so we'll get to Vijayji. Yes, sir.
Hariom Guruji. This at the neutralized state, any quantum will not give the happiness we want. You have a desire, you go on consuming, but it will not give you any kick. You, in fact, you get addicted to it.
Correct. Yes, you're right, Setuji. Yeah, Vijayji.
Guruji, there are, I suppose, only two options, that somewhere along the line, with all the physical total degradation, it has to kick in the intellect to surface, and what they normally call, we see, come to our senses, I suppose. suppose, in a way. Or never come at all and then totally lose control. Ultimately, the intellect, unless it surfaces, I think there is no way. Isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The ultimate solution is to the intellect to come and intervene the process of your contact with the sense objects. I would actually conclude with that, but you have led us to the right process, which is the right end rather. But let me clarify this aspect of neutralization, and I'll come to what you actually rightly said, Vijayji. That is, the end point is you must allow the intellect to come in and do what is nothing but moderate your contact. It is not to punish yourself of depriving of contact, but moderate, punctuate, inject an abstinence between two contacts. Harishi, can you capture these three words before I forget, sir? The intellect has to come in to moderate, punctuate, and what's the last word I used? Setuji, what's the last word? Moderate, punctuate, and
Inject. Inject use. Inject.
Inject abstinence. Inject abstinence between two contacts. This is exactly the opposite of the definition of indulgence. So indulgence, as we said, is a repeated indiscriminate contact. The opposite of that is, RPG, what are the three words we used?
Can you hear me, Guruji?
Yes.
Moderate.
Moderate.
Punctuate.
Punctuate.
Inject.
Inject an abstinence
between the two
contacts. So there is a conscious withdrawal, and that is known as self-control. This is self-control. So self-control is not to deny yourself of any contact. It's not to punish yourself. You have to contact. You have no choice but to contact the world. You can't plug yourself from contacting the world. Can I plug in my ears? Can I blindfold myself? Can I plaster myself and say I would not taste? It's ridiculous. That's not spirituality. Being spiritual or being Vedantic doesn't mean you don't contact the world at all. In fact, I would conclude with this, but I'll conclude with the reference to the second chapter. But before I get there, I wanted to give an end to what neutralization does. So as we said, there's a law of diminishing value. Now, how does the law of diminishing value apply to the physical level at the mental level? Now, at the physical level, what happens is the object remains the same, but because of repeated contact, the joy, let's say you get 10 units of joy in the first contact, it keeps dipping to a point where there is no pleasure, which is what Sidhuji said. So if you get 10 units of pleasure from the first contact, the 10th contact will become zero pleasure. So at the physical level, the joy content reduces. Now, what happens to the mental level? Because of your indiscriminate contact, the desire which had, let's say, 10 units of strength, because of indiscriminate contact, it becomes 20 units of strength. I'm just using the same figures. Physical level, the joy from 10 to become 0. At the mental level, the 10 units of strength of the desire becomes 20 units of strength because of repeated indulgence. Now, I'm talking of the experience, 11th experience. Sriniji, can you repeat what I said? Because they are neutralized to my voice, so they may miss the point.
No, I think the point you're trying to communicate is the indulgence at a physical level keeps diminishing to a very de minimis amount at a physical level.
to a point where there is no pleasure at all.
I might still argue that, like Arpitji said, I think he was, I don't know whether it comes to zero. You physically, I don't know. There's what I don't know. What
I will substantiate it. I will substantiate it. But I want you to just capture this point.
Okay.
10 units of joy at the physical level becomes zero.
Yeah.
Okay.
At a physical. So we'll go with your
analogy.
Okay.
Yes, I'll substantiate it.
At a mental, emotional level, or a mental level, it actually starts doubling or increasing. It increases.
So the mental is the desire, physical is the joy content. Okay.
Yeah.
Now
that makes sense.
You please come back to the clarification. I'll substantiate how is that it becomes no joy. And now the 11th experience. What is the 11th experience? From 1 to 10, I've explained what happens to the physical level, mental level. 11th experience, if I were to ask you and say, sir, if there is no joy out of your contact, why are you contacting it, man? Why the hell are you still contacting with it? You say, I'm sick with it. I don't want to contact. Then why are you not getting away from it? The worst state, the last concluding kill of neutralization is with it, there is no pleasure. Without it, there is displeasure. That is addiction. A person who's addicted to something, he becomes a slave to that object of enjoyment. But when he contacts it, there's no pleasure. When he abstains, it is total frustration. He is in hell. There's no pleasure out of it. This is addiction. So people do things when they're addicted, not because there's any joy in it, because they can't stop doing it. I hope you are able to see the conclusion. So the 11th experience, the desire still draws them into the experience, but there's actually, he's contacting the object not for pleasure, he's contacting the object because by not contacting, there'll be displeasure. That is serious addiction. Nowadays, I see people, they're addicted to television. Everyone is addicted to television. Now, they're addicted to television. When the television is on, the phone is also on. They're actually seeing the phone while the television is going on. And that is going on, and this is going on. You are seeing, not that you are attending to a message or something, you are actually seeing a video here, and the big screen also is going on. You're not enjoying that, nor enjoying this. Where are you? You're so addicted. You have got neutralized. With it, there is no pleasure. Without it, there is pleasure. I'll give you an example, Sriniji. You are breathing. Right now, you're breathing, I know. Don't ask me, how do I know? I know that you're breathing. But are you enjoying every moment of your breath? No. I deprive you of it. You know what it is. With it, there is no pleasure. Without it, there's displeasure. You have your limbs, your muscles, everything is intact, functioning normally. You enjoy the pleasure and joy of having your limbs and strength. No. Suddenly you lifted something heavy beyond, or you just did something without being mindful. You lifted something heavy and suddenly there's a catch in your back. Oh my God, there's a catch and I've lost my mobility. Without it, there's displeasure. But are you enjoying the flexibility and mobility of your muscles and health? No. Neutralized. You got neutralized, you got acclimatized. Now you're getting neutralized to yourself, you're getting neutralized and acclimatized to everything around you. You got neutralized to your home, you got neutralized to your car, you got neutralized to your conveniences, you got neutralized to your family, you got neutralized to everything. So there's no joy in it. The moment you keep away from it, there's displeasure. This is what we have done to ourselves. This is what the verse is saying. One happily takes to carnal pleasures. Later on, the body becomes diseased. I've only covered the first half of the verse. I'm not even gone to the second half of the verse. The first line of the verse has taken 1.5 hours just to understand. And I connect with you all to get your perspective so that the message can strike a chord with you. Otherwise, it's very easy for me to do it in 10, 20 minutes and get done with the verse. No, it's not going to help you. So you see how?
So,
yes, sir.
Would you clarify next class why at a physical level in an addiction state, it is coming to zero? So if I'm a drug addict, let's take, I'm not,
I suppose are we to take it as a reality or an example? I want that clarity first.
It's an example.
Thank you. Otherwise, you come out so clearly and candidly, we might take it literally. So just for our understanding, please.
Well, Colorado is one of the first states which passed marijuana to be legal. So I'm just saying, I live in a state which is permanent Kailash here. It's
I'm also looking up to Kailash now.
It's also a mountain state.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yes, sir.
No, but I really question the fact that if I'm a cocaine addict, I'm a meth addict, right? These are people who are chronic cases. I don't know at a physical level that they don't have any, it's a zero-sum game there. I'm not so sure. I mean, I wouldn't know the evidence. I can understand mentally it's, the want is continuously saying, I want more, I want more. There's a reason why they do it.
See, it's not the question of whether you feel that sense of taste or sense of kick or excitement, but it becomes such a norm that you don't know anything other than it. It becomes so stale, it becomes so normal for them.
Correct.
You don't know that you are enjoying it. So enjoyment is no enjoyment. See, in fact, I remember more than once. In fact, I remember telling this a few days ago. We spent a lovely few days at the Pragati. I keep talking of it, is just it's not to advertise, but in fact, I would certainly recommend you all to experience it. But we were telling people that you do not know what you are there. The staff and the people who and everybody who are there said you do not know what you're experiencing. You do not know what haven you're in. When we come from outside world and experience it, it just falls apart because they're so acclimatized to that fresh air. They're acclimatized to all that environment, so beautifully carved out, created. You don't understand the disparity of it. And once you know the disparity, you know what it is. So people who are addicted also will not understand what is the joy or which they got addicted to. So your body experiences, but you don't register anything. It's something that wow moment is no more. That's the point we're making. And the real takeaway is you keep them away from the next injection or the next dose or the next contact. You deprive them. It is hell on earth. They become monsters. The Rakshasa in them comes out. That is the real damage, neutralization, complete. That's a complete destruction. That is addiction. So what the text is saying that we must lead a life of sense contact. Now, sense contact does not mean you must lead a life of sense denial. Now, please take a note of this verse. Now, this is from the 2nd chapter, 64th verse. He gives the definition of what self-control is. Take a note of it. I will come and expand. Certainly next week, I will take it up. But he talks about a man who lives a life of self-control. Sriniji, can you read that verse for us, please, the translation?
Yes, but the self-controlled man, free from likes and dislikes, moving among objects with senses under control attains peace.
Now, what is that thing which is interesting in that entire verse?
I think I like the second part of the sentence better, personally. I think moving among objects with senses, so you're still moving with the senses, under control attains peace.
So self-control or sense control is not denying of sense contact. Remember this. Now, and that is there. This is the original text. I am not introducing. This is the original text. Says a man of self-control is seen amidst sense objects. He is not somewhere aloof, sitting in the woods. You are a man of action. You are midst of sense objects. You are contacting a sense. No point being in the sense objects and not contacting and not enjoying. You are in contact with sense object. You are enjoying the sense object, and yet you are practicing self-control. And why is it? Because your contact is driven by the intellect and not the mind. And I shall expand on this next week. On this statement, I'll expand next week. It's still the first half of the verse. The statement I will enhance and expand is, you are amid sense objects. Rajima, please, can you take a note of this line and bring it up to us next week? You are amid sense objects. You are contacting, you are enjoying, but you are establishing the contact not on the mind, but from the intellect. And that precisely is self-control. And that is what he says in this verse. There are two self-controls that is functioning, and you've got to live a life of self-control. And I suppose none of us will question, why do I have to live a life of self-control? Because as the verse says, if you lead yourself to carnal pleasures, your body will be diseased at the physical level. At the mental level, you will be neutralized. And then the second half, he says, although death is the end, in fact, if you lead such a life, you are inviting death much before it actually happens, because of your reckless attitude to indulge. Therefore, the verse throws caution and says, beware of any carnal pleasures or sensual indulgence. We shall come back to it. Thank you. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.